From Rialto, California, Mark Flores presents to you the Pay-Per-Review Wrestling Podcast. Extreme Rules 2016 reviews and WWE news and rumors. I am your host, Mark Flores. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this episode of the Pay-Per-Review Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Mark Flores. Tonight's Pay-Per-Review Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles. That's PS4 and Xbox One. You can come into contact with Game Swappers via Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. Keep in mind, guys, that if you do share any which one of my podcasts, whether it's this Pay-Per-Review Wrestling Podcast, whether it be Retro Collecting 101, where I give tips and tricks on what to do for retro collecting, and the very hilarious Mark and Andre Show, where we talk current events, conspiracies, and movies. If you share any which one of those podcasts via Instagram or any form of social media, you'll be able to get 10% off towards your retro game purchases, or if you'd like to sell some your collection or sell some of your consoles, you'll get 10% more towards whatever you trade in. The trade-ins have to be in-store only. So make sure you actually get on that promotion. Tonight, I want to discuss a few of the WWE news and rumors that I've heard along the way, followed by an Extreme Rules 2016 review. As far as the WWE news and rumors, if you guys haven't heard yet, Cody Rhodes has asked for his release, and then shortly, a couple days after he asked for his release, he was actually released by the WWE. I wish Cody Rhodes the best. I think he was a very good talent. I really thought that his gimmick would start us. He actually, though it wasn't a really great gimmick, he actually brought it to unprecedented heights that people didn't anticipate he'd take it to. He actually is quoted as saying, he actually turned chicken shit into chicken salad, hence the Stardust gimmick. Cody Rhodes deserved way more than this, I believe. I think he was actually poised with the looks and the charm and the ability to actually win a lot of more championships than he did. I wish him the best, and not to mention that his wife Eden actually asked for her release as well, so now both Eden and Cody Rhodes are gone. The only remaining talent of the Rhodes family for now is not Dusty Rhodes, it's Dustin Runnels. AKA Goldust. He's the only one that's left out of the bunch. As far as more rumors there, Ryback was tweeting during the Extreme Rules 2016, and he actually said hashtag feed me more if you want to see Ryback inside if you want to see me in the Impact Zone, which alludes to the Impact Zone, which is a part of TNA. I thought that Ryback did an actual good job for his last pay-per-view match at Payback with Kalisto, but I don't think anything was going his way the way he wanted it to. So at the end of the day, I wish Ryback the best. He's a great, impressive wrestler for now. He did really improve from his days where CM Punk actually started calling him green and inexperienced. So he actually really improved, and I think his last match with at Payback against Kalisto really goes to show his entire moveset from start to finish, especially with a spot at the end of this match that no one thought to see coming, which was a gorilla press off the top turnbuckle. I haven't seen that in a long time happening. But I wish Ryback the best. Whatever venture he does, I'll be sure to keep up and keep you guys posted on what I find about Ryback. As far as other news too, they did release, WWE has released Adam Rose. Adam Rose was involved in a domestic dispute with his wife and actually got in an altercation with her, and long story short, as soon as he got involved with that, they released him, I think almost a week after that, but he is now released. this long streak of people just leaving the business right now actually leaves room for a lot of talent that has been laying in ground for a long time. So this definitely helps out usher in the new era that people keep talking about. I'm really poised to see what's going to be happening the next couple of months, to see what type of feuds we have with new stars and what kind of surprise debuts we can actually have due to the fact that there's a lot of talent that's leaving the business. Extreme Rules 2016. What can I say about this? This pay-per-view is like Payback. It's basically a overhyped pay-per-view. It's basically a pay-per-view to get people to go into pay-per-view buys or to tune in with the WWE Network for advertisement. These matches aren't really A-list matches. A majority of them aren't. The only two matches that I was poised to see was the the Fatal 4-Way Intercontinental match, and the main event, which was Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles. Mainly because AJ Styles is always going to try to put on a 4-star match no matter who he's in the ring with. Which goes to show what I've thought of the Fatal 4-Way as well, the Intercontinental Fatal 4-Way. I'll get into that one by one, but first I want to cover the first match, which was on the pre-show. And granted, it was on the pre-show because I was pretty much disappointed, only because I knew that going into Extreme Rules and going into this first match, that what I wanted wasn't going to happen, and I'll let you figure that out as I discuss every which match along the way. Baron Corbin versus Dolph Ziggler. This feud has not lived up to the expectations, I think, of creative, nor to the expectations of what WWE has anticipated. So, granted that this feud has really gone without steam. It was a lackluster match. Got very intense during the end with a shuffle of signature moves between Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. The cheap low blow by Corbin got the win for him, and he was actually able to get over on Dolph Ziggler. The end result by someone actually giving someone a low blow to actually win this in terms of Extreme Rules really doesn't generate a lot more heel heat than they already have. It's really just a cheap way out, especially since it's legal. But that does open the door for people to realize, hey, well, if low blows were already legal in the beginning of this match, why didn't anyone else try this at any point during this match as well? You know, why didn't they go to illicit means to actually gain a victory? And to answer that is merely loopholes. Loopholes within the story, loopholes within the stipulations of the match. And then keep in mind at the end of the day, it is all entertainment. But overall, this match was the end to a very stagnant feud. And Baron Corbin's being only slightly elevated by winning over Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler's name, if you beat Dolph Ziggler nowadays, you're not really getting anywhere within the business. That is the overall habit and the overall reputation that Dolph Ziggler has. So it just goes to show you that by winning against actually beating Dolph Ziggler and winning the Andre Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania, it really doesn't do anything to elevate your stock nowadays. Cesaro learned that a couple years ago, and now Baron Corbin's learning that as well. That's pretty much all what I'm going to be discussing as far as this match goes. I don't think Baron Corbin's worth discussing, especially since his match was on the pre-show. It's funny to mention, but Baron Corbin is has very thinning hair at the top of his head. JR actually tweeted on his Twitter that you should expect a hair versus hair match with Baron Corbin very soon, because it's really presentable and really apparent to see that Baron Corbin is actually losing a lot of hair on the top. But anyway, let's go to this next match. That was actually the first match on this actual card here. We had the Bloodline, which consisted of Anderson and Gallows, and then you had them against facing the Usos. This match was stemming from a feud from this month. between the club and between the bloodline, which consists of the Usos and Roman Reigns. I thought this match had great intensity. I think their main mission with this match was to make Gallows and Anderson look very strong, and they did it to a T. The club looked very strong and were able to actually look strong against the Usos, so it's something that they needed for a while. Their first pay-per-view wasn't going to go without a win. I really think so, because if you go into your first pay-per-view and lose, your stock immediately drops within the perception of the WWE Universe. While the tag team division is average for now, the New Day and the club are definitely looking very interesting to watch for the next couple months as far as feuds go. The Usos did a great job in making the club elevate in their stock. There's a bunch of great spots to see. What I really appreciated is both Anderson and Gallows actually distributing a lot of great in-ring psychology within the match as well. That's something that goes that slips by some of the wrestlers nowadays in the tag team business, like the hot tag and some of the selling within the tag team matches kind of go a little by the wayside. But I'm glad Anderson and Gallows do appreciate and do know what it takes to actually put on a good match and how to actually emote these physical emotions toward the audience. I know that these guys are very experienced, and this isn't their first rodeo, but it is one of the first main pay-per-view rodeos going in within WWE. But their stints in TNA and with New Japan Pro Wrestling, they definitely know what's going on within the business and how to put on a great match. The Usos don't really lose a lot of stock here because they're always going to remain consistent as far as merch goes. Twins and their little gimmick, it actually goes really well. Anderson and Gallows have their stock very elevated to the point where now, let's see where we can go with these guys. Let's see if we can take them up to the scale of the New Day. Let's see if they're actually going to do something within the next following weeks. Because if you know, the fallout of this pay-per-view, which came on Raw, AJ Styles did break up with Anderson and Gallows because Anderson and Gallows decided to attack AJ Styles at this Monday Night Raw, the very previous one. Today is Thursday of that same week, if you guys are listening in. The next match that we had was Kalisto versus Rusev. Things to compliment about this match, it was Rusev's impressive moveset. I mean, to do a good match against a smaller guy, Rusev really did it to a T. Implementing slams, implementing the dominance over the little guy. Basically, the moniker that Kalisto was going into right now is that Kalisto was bearing an injury. Was he able to overcome two giants, one in Ryback and the next in Rusev? Was he able to achieve the impossible? Could he dominate Rusev for it? The way it happened was this: Kalisto tried to make the most of it. More than likely what's going to happen, because Kalisto did lose against Rusev. Rusev pretty much dominated 90% of the match with very little offense going to Kalisto, but that's how they wanted to build this match. Rusev ended up winning with the accolade, but he took the accolade to the next level because he was able to bend Kalisto so far back that it kind of was going into a form of a Mexican surfboard. Kalisto tapped out, and Rusev went over on Kalisto and actually won the United States Heavyweight Championship. So the two routes that Rusev and Kalisto need to go here. Kalisto is more than likely going to head back to the tag team since Sakata is going to be on his way back. Rusev just might end up repeating the whole WrestleMania thing till SummerSlam, until John Cena comes back. He might lose it at a pay-per-view either before that, so he might lose it at Money in the Bank. Who knows? So what we can see here is that John Cena's not coming back into a pay-per-view without winning some sort of title. He's pretty much out of the heavyweight title picture for now until he has the last inkling of his career, just to give him one more to top Ric Flair. But what I'm seeing with Rusev now is that I really don't think that WWE was fully invested into making Rusev this giant guy. now, as far as this couple of years. I think that Ryback was supposed to be in the shoes of Rusev. I think that they were going to be doing that because you think about the same characteristics and the same likeness of Rusev and Ryback. Both were powerhouses, but in the example of Ryback is kind of on the way out of WWE now. So all they had to do was essentially fill in with Rusev, and now Rusev has won the title. So that kind of goes to show you that if Ryback was still here, maybe he would have won the title. Or in respects to the business, maybe this is the business's way of showing Ryback, well, look, dude, you left, so fuck you. Look who we put the title on. This could have been you. That's what I'm thinking. That is the route that I am pretty much poised on believing. Just because Rusev pretty much didn't have any stock to or any means to win this U.S. Championship in the last couple months. He was in a very stagnant clique for a little while until that disbanded. So who knows? Maybe a feud with Alberto Del Rio at SummerSlam, or a feud with one of the guys from the League of Nations next month might go down. So who knows? I'm very excited to see that. So I hope the best for Rusev in this situation. Hopefully both of these guys can stay healthy to actually relive this rivalry next month or in the following months. Who knows? The match overall was very good, as a matter of fact. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. I was more involved into the outlook of what happened post-match. But yeah, still a very good match to see because, you see Rusev actually putting on his whole moveset on display. It's really good to see Rusev back on the map as a heel anyway. The next up, we had the Vaudevillains versus the New Day. This whole segment opened up with New Day putting on a very impressive opening promo about since they were in the Garden State of New Jersey this pay-per-view, the man we know as Big E had two garden hose in the back of his he was holding them, and he ended up saying, and I quote, "Since we're in the Garden State, I'm going to put these two hose in regards to the Vaudevillains to down in the ground." I thought that was very hilarious, especially all the stuff that they say even beforehand till the main punchline comes on. I think the New Day are sickly over. It's not even a joke how over they are, and I still enjoy seeing their stuff because they can be so fresh every single time because they're able to break the fourth wall with us. They're able to do whatever they want because at this point their microphone magic really just takes them to the next level. And that's not that's not downplaying any of their skill because all of them can really wrestle. Kofi Kingston can wrestle. Big E is a very great powerhouse, and Xavier Woods can really wrestle as well. All of them are tremendous talents through and through. But let's go into the match. The Vaudevillains were impressive this time around. For their second pay-per-view, they know they had to make up. They had to make a bigger name for themselves because as of this pay-per-view, they were only known. Simon Gotch was the only guy known. The only guy known around the business is a guy who kind of roadblocked Enzo Amore's career for a little bit since he gave him a concussion. The New Day ended up fighting with Big E and Xavier Woods in the corner against Aiden English and Simon Gotch. But the Vaudevillains did look really impressive this match. It's really good to see them actually do a little something within the ring. They were very impressive within NXT, but these are guys within their same weight classes. It's good to see Aiden English lock up with a guy like Big E or even Simon Gotch, who's still of a stocky build, go up against Big E and Xavier Woods. It's really good. It's very good chemistry that these guys have because the New Day is a babyface team with the Vaudevillains going in as heels. So the whole build up to this whole thing was that the Vaudevillains were wrestlers of a bygone era, and that they wanted to show the New Day that they still are relevant and they will be able to beat them for the title. That didn't go their way because all Simon Gotch saw was a flying knee to the face, and he ended up. Xavier Woods and the New Day ended up winning via a 3 count from a knee to the face from Xavier Woods to Simon Gotch. Big E's spear that he usually does within this match was done again, and it looks impressive. The only thing that you have to realize is that this spot is very dangerous. You do risk getting an injury within your shoulder blade, so that is just always something I worry about, and I hate bringing it up every time I do a synopsis of this, but he does it, and he really sells it after the fact, so it kind of gets you a little bit worried. But that goes to show you that he does sell it very well as well. The New Day retain the titles. The Vaudevillains, at the end of the day, were not up to par to what the New Day are, so WWE Creative knows that this isn't the route that they should go with the Vaudevillains going over against the New Day at Extreme Rules. That just doesn't happen, especially since Vince McMahon isn't really poised on these guys after all. So it's going to take a lot of take a lot of victories for this team, the Vaudevillains, to actually equal to the value of the New Day. The Vaudevillains are still fresh along the scene, so it's kind of something that needs to come along the way as the Vaudevillains find their charm. I know I'm not really sold on the Vaudevillains, but what I can see happen is that these guys can find their niche within their gimmick and actually turn out a couple good promos, because Aiden English is fancy in theater. He does know what he's doing there. Simon Gotch does look intimidating as well. So these guys can find their form, but if they don't, with quick timing, it might be, we might see the Vaudevillains either back in NXT or end up being released. The Vaudevillains, at the end of the day, were the replacement to Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. We all know that. I really doubt that Enzo and Cass were going to lose at Payback, just because the fact of the matter is that when Enzo Amore got injured, they just called the match instead of having someone take the pin on Enzo and go from there. But that that opens up a whole can of worms that I won't get into as far as a previous pay-per-view ago from Payback. The next match that we have is Kevin Owens versus Cesaro versus the champion, the Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, versus Sami Zayn. It was a fatal four-way for the Intercontinental title. This match, wow. I was really impressed by this match. Everyone gets a very great grade as far as the match goes. Everyone gets A's. This was a 4-star match that I initially predicted. A great opening move from Sami Zayn to give the haluva kick to Kevin Owens. That move kind of set up the match. A whole synopsis of what the match was going to go from there. Some good spots to mention. You had a 4-man suplex at the corner of the turnbuckle that Cesaro gave to the other 3 men. Every wrestler's moveset was put on display as well. And one thing I could tell you is when the crowd is in a wrestling match, everybody within the whole staff, the announcers, the referees, the wrestlers, they're all in on it. Energy is contagious within an arena, which is why home court to some sports is very beneficial. But Cesaro comes out with a bunch of uppercuts. The Miz does his typical shifty, trying to sneak in a pin off of the signature move of someone else. Kevin Owens just keeps power bombing and powerhousing everyone, and Sami Zayn is that guy that you kind of want to win, but it's not his time yet, but he still could. He was the lottery chance to win this. He actually got a haluva kick on Cesaro and had a chance of winning it, but he didn't. There was a lot of 2 counts going along this match that really kept the intensity up. Kick-outs out of signature moves that were going down too. Everyone else using someone else's signature move. This match had every key aspect of being a classic 4-star match. The end result is something that none of us wanted, and not me. I certainly thought that Cesaro was going to win, but The Miz ended up retaining the belt. The intensity and the importance of him losing the belt also intensifies, though. So what I mean by that is, now that the Miz ended up winning retaining his belt, this adds more heat to the fact that he needs to lose this belt, and it's going to take a babyface to have this belt taken away from him. So what you can anticipate is someone along the lines of Sami Zayn or Adrian Neville when he comes back from injury, or even Cesaro. Someone is going to come out of the woodwork to actually get this title from The Miz. So it's going to take a major pay-per-view for this to happen. I personally think so. I think at SummerSlam or Money in the Bank, something's going to happen along the ways to where The Miz is going to end up losing his belt. I personally think that he's going to feud with someone, either Sami Zayn or Cesaro, because, I mean, as we all know, the Kevin Owens is a heel now, and heels versus heels really kind of doesn't go along the way. I know Kevin Owens can elevate someone's stock, or Kevin Owens can get his stock elevated by, fighting a mid-card babyface. So this match could have used the title change pop, but it looks like WWE is going to keep the belt on The Miz till SummerSlam. This, like I said before, is going to build this anticipation that you kind of really want to see The Miz lose his title. But the reason why you want to see that is because he's being such a great heel that you guys and myself really want this son of a bitch to lose the belt. He does a great job. His stock is definitely elevated just because of Maurice on his side, but he still definitely does put on a great act as far as him being a great heel. Very brash, very egotistical. That's how it goes. Props to Kevin Owens, props to Cesaro, Sami Zayn, and The Miz for putting on a great match. I want to thank them especially for putting on a 4-star match, because if not, that would have been something I wasn't able to predict there. The next match that we have was Natalya versus Charlotte. I'll definitely keep this one short just because of how ludicrous the ending was. A very technically savvy match in the beginning. You had Natalie and Charlotte doing a bunch of mat exchanges with hip tosses and headlocks. I think both of them wrestling all the time is really good, but it grows stagnant now just because this is the third time they've actually fought. So Ric Flair is banned from ringside. So they're going within this match. And then what ends up happening is that Ric Flair's music ends up playing. And then Ric Flair ends up turning around because you think it's Ric Flair because he had the person was wearing a Ric Flair robe and had the white wig, but it ended up being Dana Brooke. So it just happened randomly. So Natalie looks and sees, hey, what the heck? This is Ric Flair, right? So call the match. I win the belt. Nope. Charlotte gets the small cradle. No. Charlotte, since it was a submission match, Charlotte was able to distract Natalya. Natalya was under the figure 8, and now she ended up tapping. This was very confusing to me because Dana Brooke had zero affiliation with Charlotte beforehand. So I don't know how WWE decided, hey, well, let's put Dana Brooke with Charlotte and have it not make sense. Yeah, that sounds like a smart idea. No, it wasn't. It was not. Because I was confused. Leaving me confused leaves everyone else confused, leaves more questions than answers on why they did this. So it was really an insane idea why they did that. But Charlotte retains the Divas title. Like I said with The Miz, this title reign with Charlotte needs to go now. And it's going to be Charlotte. It's going to be Sasha Banks to do it. But now they're even waiting on seeing what happens with Sasha Banks as far as injuries go, because now she actually had a concussion. So we got to see what's going to go on with that to see what happens along the lines of there. So Charlotte ended up retaining by the figure 8 against Natalya via a distraction from Dana Brooke. So what I can tell you now is that this women's division kind of takes a step back a little bit just because of the shoddy ending, but it does, for one match to go down, it takes one match to bring it up two steps ahead and have everyone forget about what happened at Extreme Rules. So hopefully they know what they're doing over at Creative as far as having everyone forget about what went down here at Extreme Rules. Okay, so this next match that I had too is Y2J versus Dean Ambrose. Chris Jericho ended up facing Dean Ambrose in what was called an Asylum match. Basically, an Asylum match is a black painted cage with a bunch of foreign objects laying at the top. You can only lose via pinfall or submission, so there's no escaping out of the gate, no climbing out of the gate, nothing of that sort. Nothing separated this from an Asylum match besides the paint job. the weapons and the weapons hanging around the cell. The cage looked dead on like any other cage match, but painted black. Still, the gimmick was very inventive. That's what I give WWE. But all this needs now is just some fine-tuning from WWE, and it might be successful enough to be a reoccurring match. That's what I saw, because the gimmick is very inventive. But this match didn't live up to the feud at hand. I personally thought that Chris Jericho looked very confused as if what was going on within this cage match, like why he was just moments within this match he had the referee ask him to let him out, but you can't be let out because in the Asylum match you're not able to. I can see maybe Chris Jericho was trying to get some heat because he wanted the fans to say, well, he doesn't even want a piece of Dean Ambrose inside this Asylum, so maybe that could have been it. But within this match, it was very slow, very drawn out, just because these guys are barely working out the kinks within this match, making sure that all these items get pulled off. But I mean, Chris Jericho and Dean Ambrose did make the most of it. That's what I give them credit for. You know, they sold everything really well. All of their moves were pretty much done on point. There was no botches whatsoever. The only botches that you had was Chris Jericho a couple times trying to climb out of the gate, trying to get out of the gate in the beginning, and climbing for weapons that weren't there in the stands. So it just got really weird. The only saving grace between this match actually was Dean Ambrose pulling out some thumbtacks. These thumbtacks ended up being poured out in the ring, and then Chris Jericho got slammed onto him, got his back slammed into him, and then you actually see these thumbtacks get entered to the side of Chris Jericho. Thumbtacks on the side of anything really hurts, so you can really appreciate Chris Jericho taking the spot. He took it on the back, and then he actually took a dirty deeds to the face, which could have been very dangerous if the thumbtacks actually hit him in the face. So it was this is something to worry about. You know, you just don't do your finishing move, which ends up being your opponent's face on the mat. Once you pour thumbtacks down, gets very dangerous. Someone can get their eye poked out. Chris Jericho could have went blind if it entered his retina, etc., etc. Nonetheless, point blank, it was very dangerous for Dean Ambrose to do that very close to the thumbtacks. What could have happened was, I don't know, I would have, if I was in that situation, I would have thrown Chris Jericho on the turnbuckle, called the spot to just get the move finished, not near the thumbtacks, and finish off and go from there. Make sure it's a lot healthy, make sure it's a lot safer to do versus doing it in an Asylum match and have these thumbtacks being shoved in my opponent's face. The main thing is that this match does need some fine-tuning. I think the Asylum match is something very different. It's very new, very refreshing to see, but it needs some fine-tuning, and hopefully the second iteration of this match really gets improved. I think it will. It just depends on what type of angle that they're going to use it at, because as of right now, it kind of looks like it's going to be Dean Ambrose's thing, since he's like the lunatic. More than likely, it's going to stay along with Dean Ambrose. So this isn't going to be the last time we're going to see this Asylum match. But for it being the first one, it didn't look that bad. But you could definitely see that these moves and these spots weren't up to par as what an experienced cage match was. Dean Ambrose ended up winning with the dirty deeds near the thumbtacks, and Chris Jericho might be the last run of Chris Jericho's for now, because he always decides to come back here and there. So we'll see. I'm kind of getting tired of talking about Chris Jericho all the time, just because he's involved in these meaningless feuds, and I'm still kind of angry that they decided to have AJ Styles lose to Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. So yeah, I'm pretty much done with that. Dean Ambrose gets his stock elevated a lot because he beat Chris Jericho. So hopefully we're kind of looking at Dean Ambrose winning Money in the Bank, with Dean Ambrose going in a fatal three-way with the Shield basically at SummerSlam. So hopefully that can happen. But nonetheless, an okay match. I'll give him the fact that this match was the first debut match of the Asylum match. So I'll give him that. Next, we have the main event, which was Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles. One couple good things to say about this match, actually, besides the boos to Roman Reigns. Crazy spots. You had a back body drop performed by AJ Styles from Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns basically lifted AJ Styles over his head, and AJ Styles' back landed on the announce table, which broke. So that was cool to see. This match was a great match with the correct amount of interference. I thought this match was kind of like a repeat of what Payback was, but you kind of saw more things going in favor of AJ Styles towards the end. The club's interference barely inflicted any damage to Roman Reigns, and then the chair shots from AJ Styles, I think it was like 5+, and then followed by the Styles Clash on the table. I mean, on the chair, the same chair he was using to beat Roman Reigns with. The Styles Clash didn't do a damn thing because Roman Reigns kicks out at 2. It's unfortunate to see that this move, the Styles Clash, as dangerous as it is to be performed, was actually being squashed as a weak move because Roman Reigns was able to kick out of it after receiving chair shots to the side like nobody's business. So, sorry about that. What this match really was just a buffer match to get Seth Rollins to come out at the very end. All in all, I cannot say this enough, is that AJ Styles, what he needs to have, he's 38 years old right now. AJ Styles can't be used very sparingly for now. His moveset is very limited to the next couple years. Some of the moves you may see now won't work next year at Extreme Rules 2017. These things worry me to the fact that maybe AJ Styles needs to tone it down a little bit because he was going really hard. He was going really hard on Roman Reigns, and I enjoy seeing an intense match like that, but it just, every time I see all these 450 splashes off the ropes or these very dangerous moves that AJ Styles does, for his age, it's very questionable. But so this is what's going on near the end of the match. The club end up coming out to distract and to infuriate Roman Reigns. And then Roman Reigns' bloodline, Jimmy and Jey Uso, they come out. A whole bunch of confusion comes around, and then you see that AJ Styles gets the chair, slaps Roman Reigns about 5 or 7 times, and then does the Styles Clash on the chairs. After you see that, Roman Reigns kicks out, and then Roman Reigns gets like a couple of consecutive moves performed on him by AJ Styles, and then AJ Styles is going to do the forearm smash to Roman Reigns at the end, but he goes up in midair and then gets speared, which kind of gives you a reminisce to Payback of earlier this month, and then Roman Reigns ended up winning and retaining the title. So while he was retaining the title, the cameraman stays fixated on Roman Reigns in the middle of the ring. Seth Rollins comes out of nowhere. The crowd goes nuts. The crowd's been dying to see Seth Rollins for a long time, and now they're able to. The thing that sucks about this is that the following Monday, Seth Rollins actually established himself as the heel against Roman Reigns. Now this is very unfortunate because Seth Rollins had there is no proper motive for him to be heel. He needs the belt and he wants the belt, and this is the belt he never lost. So instead of being humbled and wanting to have a rematch, he was actually thinking he deserves and he's entitled to one. Realistically, he is, but the way the WWE creative wants you to believe is that Seth Rollins comes back and he's as vengeful as ever, and he wants to take out the good old boy that everyone believes in, Roman Reigns, which no one's really sold on the guy Roman Reigns to begin with anyway. Overall, I have a very final thought on this. All in all, these pay-per-view matches always fall to the trap of these pay-per-view matches to think that something's going to happen when the thing that I thought was going to happen doesn't happen, and this does nothing but becomes a precursor to the next following pay-per-view. That's classic marketing. They're only going to make you see all the pay-per-views till something happens, and that's what draws us into all these matches, and it's one of the many reasons why we enjoy watching wrestling from time to time. Overall, I think that Extreme Rules 2016 was a very lackluster pay-per-view as well. It's just one of those, the Payback, Extreme Rules, TLC. These are all pay-per-views that nothing really happens. WrestleMania, the Survivor Series, and SummerSlam, and the Royal Rumble are the only times where something happens. Any of the big four. So, as far as in other news, though, not belonging to Extreme Rules, is that WWE recently announced that they're actually going to do a brand split and have some of the roster on Monday Night Raw, and then some of the roster on SmackDown. I think that's nothing but good things as far as the rosters go, because now they only have to work 2 dates a week instead of going Monday then Tuesday to SmackDown. SmackDown is going to actually be done live on Tuesdays, which is cool too, because we are all used to seeing it done on Thursdays. So that's something good to see as well. I'm really looking forward to what can happen, what the possibilities can happen with the brand split. But the only thing I'm really concerned of is now I really don't think that the Bullet Club is going to happen now, because with the brand split, who knows who might shoot where, or who might go which way. So that just kind of worries me, unless the Bullet Club is able to go to two different pay-per-view. I mean, not two different pay-per-views, but two different programs. So now what we can see now is that they're actually going to bring a lot more NXT talent up. They're going to have a lot more roster space available in both of these sections. So that's good and bad. There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad with these brand splits, but we can all enjoy it for what it is. It's something new and it's something refreshing, and hopefully Shane McMahon could stay for the rest of the year at least to help rise the stock of whatever he's running. So hopefully we can see this actually flourish and be what it tried to be back in the early 2000s during the ruthless aggression era. Anyway, guys, it was my review of Extreme Rules 2016, plus a few tips, a few bits of news along the way, and a little bit of rumors too. But this episode of Paper Review Podcast was brought to you by Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles. That's PS4 and Xbox One. You can come into contact with Game Swappers via Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. Keep in mind, guys, that if you do share any which one of my podcasts, which Paper Review Wrestling Podcast, Retro Collecting 101, where I give tips and tricks on what to do to increase your retro collection, or the very hilarious Mark and Andre Show, a mixture of conspiracies, movies, and entertainment, all twisted in with two amateur comedians, Mark and Andre. If you share any which one of them through any means of social media, you'll get 10% off towards your retro game purchases. Or if you want to sell off your collection, if you go in store, you could sell it off and get 10% more towards your trade-ins. Keep in mind that this trade-in is in-store only, and it only applies to store credit as well. But who knows? If you're into getting 10% more towards your video game trade-ins, by all means do it. You could do that. You can either do that online with the claim sale, or you can go in store. On the Game Swappers Instagram page is their phone number, their address, etc. So if you have any more questions, be sure to contact them at GAMESWAPPERS on Instagram. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you guys one thing is that keep focused on this new era that we're going to watch, because now this is going to be the talent that we're going to see for the next 10 plus years. So pay attention to what we have here and learn to like it, because these guys are incredible. We're tuning down the actual buff muscular dudes for actual movesets and actual hopefully storylines that are coming, that might bring back Ruthless Aggression era with a little more raunchier humor and the like. Hopefully they're getting away from the TVY, WWE Raw that we're used to now. So just take a look at that. Other than that, guys, you guys have a good night. Stay safe and keep watching.